Seeing a TeamLab experience or two when you're traveling in Japan is an absolute must, so guess what? The biggest TeamLab in Japan has just opened up, so here I am to check out TeamLab Biovortex in Kyoto. And spoiler alert, it absolutely blew my mind. And this is coming from someone who's been to quite a few TeamLabs. In today's video, I'm going to be answering all your burning questions about TeamLab Biovortex, from how to get there, how to get tickets, what to expect, what to wear, accessibility issues, and more. Which is why I'm going to do today's video in a Q&A format. My goal is for you to have all the information you need in order to navigate TeamLab Biovortex like a pro. And so without further ado, let's get into it, shall we? So let's start with the most obvious question, which is, what is TeamLab Biovortex? Well, it is an artwork museum where the exhibits are immersive, interactive, and also often blur the lines between technology and nature. It officially opened up its doors on October 7, 2025 and reportedly took over 4 years to complete. The size of the venue is also staggering at over 10,000 square meters, officially making it the largest TeamLab experience in Japan. And it's not just all about the size either. It is also the first TeamLab experience that I've ever been to that has floors. Indeed, TeamLab Biovortex's exhibition space is spread across 4 floors featuring well over 50 artworks. But let's now talk about how to get tickets. And if there's one thing I hope you take away from this video, it would be for you to book your tickets well ahead of time, because TeamLab experiences are already very popular to begin with, and I would expect Biovortex to be even more popular as it is still fairly new. Tickets for your desired date become available 2 months prior to your visit, so that is when I would recommend you book your tickets, especially if you A, want to go on a particular date, and 2, if you're traveling in a large group. I also want to quickly talk about the ticket pricing, as it is actually the first time I've seen Japan's new dynamic pricing system at play. What is dynamic pricing, I hear you say? Well, Japan has recently implemented dynamic pricing for attractions such as theme parks and museums, adjusting the pricing based on demand, time, and seasonality, in some instances charging foreign visitors more than local residents. And that explains the price range that you can see here on the official website. In general, however, you can get 2 kinds of tickets, a general entrance pass and a flexible pass. Let's talk about the differences between the two. Well, let's start with a general pass, which is cheaper, and the price can also differ depending on which one you purchase. As you can see here, for example, prices are cheaper for those with disabilities. By the way, if you're someone with a disability, the person who accompanies you can also purchase a ticket under this category. You will expect to pay between 2,500 to 5,000 yen, which converts to a 25 to 50 AUD range, or for those of you in the US, 16 USD to 32 USD. However, one of the most important things you will need to know about this general pass is that you will need to enter at an assigned time of your choice when you make the purchase. And also, side note, you're also only allowed to purchase up to 6 tickets at one go. And that's the general pass. If you're not quite sure of exactly what time you're gonna get to TeamLab Biovortex, it may be worthwhile considering the flexible pass. And this was exactly what I got, by the way, because I was staying in Osaka, had a full day planned in Kyoto, and wasn't quite sure what time I would get to TeamLab Biovortex. By the way, if you bought a general pass and missed your entry time, you have basically forfeited your ticket. Do note though, for both passes, re-entries are not permitted. In terms of where to buy it, you can of course choose to purchase it via the official site, but I actually did a bit of comparison, and the pricing is actually quite similar on Klook, which is where I usually get my passes. And if you use my Klook code, you can actually get a further 10% off that ticket price. And so that is what I would recommend you do. What about how to get there? TeamLab Biovortex is located about a 5 to 7 minute walk from the Hajicho East exit of JR Kyoto Station, and most of you would be taking public transport there, but if you're someone who has rented a car, do note that there is no parking available on site. With all the preliminaries out of the way, let's now talk about what you can expect or what you need to prepare before visiting TeamLab Biovortex. By the way, I'm Steve from the Fat Life Project. I'm an early retiree who spends a lot of my time traveling, and this channel is full of travel guides just like the one that you're watching right now, that's going to help you navigate yourself in cities around the world like a seasoned pro. And so if traveling is your vibe, I strongly recommend subscribing so that we can go on more fat travel adventures together. Right, with that little segue out of the way, let's get back into it, shall we? Yes, children are allowed to visit TeamLab Biovortex, but they cannot enter alone and must be accompanied by an adult aged 18 years and above. In fact, you will need at least 1 supervising adult for every 3 kids, and that includes the kids that are eligible for free entry. This next section is also very important, as I'm going to talk about what you should or shouldn't wear when visiting TeamLab Biovortex. The most obvious one is that there will be mirrored floors, so please do not wear skirts or dresses, especially short ones, for reasons that I'm sure I do not have to explain. This TeamLab also has an athletic area, and due to the nature of some of the exhibits in this space, anyone wearing high heels, sandals, wooden clogs or other unsteady footwear will not be allowed to enter. If you do make this mistake though, do note that there's an option to rent sneakers, but honestly, I would have second thoughts about doing this. I would just be thinking too much about who's worn the shoes before me, and also, if you happen to be visiting at a busy time, your shoe size may not even be available. And thus, I would just recommend you wear the correct footwear before visiting. Additionally, if you are concerned about getting wet, I would recommend bringing a raincoat or a poncho. You will need this at the massless amorphous sculpture exhibit. But not to worry if you didn't bring one, as you can actually purchase a raincoat and shoe covers for 300 yen at the entrance of the exhibit. In terms of how many hours you should be allocating to TeamLab Biovortex in your itinerary, I would recommend allocating at least 3 to 4 hours in your itinerary in order to give you enough time to fully immerse yourself in all the exhibits. Hot tip, as the space is huge, it is super easy to get lost, so highly recommend downloading the TeamLab app that will show you all the artworks that are close to you, as well as how to get to them so that you can be sure to not miss out on anything. It will also tell you where the closest bathrooms are, which I'm sure is an important and frequently asked question. Hot tip number 2 is that there's almost always a queue for these exhibits, so head to these 4 first as soon as you arrive to minimize queuing, allowing you to make the most of your time here at Biovortex. And that is quite a long time, so do note that there are also no food options on site, and so I would just recommend eating something before entering, especially if you're planning to visit first thing in the morning. And that leads quite nicely into this next section, which is what is the best time to visit. If your priority is to avoid potential crowds, then the best time to visit obviously would be on a weekday instead of a weekend. In terms of specific timing though, I would recommend the early mornings if you want to avoid crowds, or in the evening if you want to enhance your viewing experience. To have the best of both worlds, I would recommend going in the last 2 hours of the museum's operating hours, which is 7 to 9 p.m. By the way, the museum operates from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m, but do note that they are closed on some Tuesdays. It's not hard to figure out which Tuesdays, as you will not be able to buy tickets for those particular days. So what can you expect exhibition-wise when you're inside TeamLab Biovortex? Well, I'm so glad you asked, as that's exactly what we're going to be talking about in this next section, where I'm going to give you a lowdown of all the exhibition spaces, some of my favorite arts, and more. And so if you don't want any spoilers before going, don't watch this part and skip straight to the is it worth visiting part of this video. But if you're still here in 1, 2, and 3, I assume you don't mind spoilers, so here we go. TeamLab Biovortex comprises 4 levels and multiple immersive rooms. The first one you will walk into is the Flowers and People Cannot Be Controlled But Live Together, featuring spectacular flowers and constant bloom. You will also in the same area eventually venture into the other rooms, such as the Universe of Water and Silence Radiance Within. However, the one that I've never seen before at any other TeamLab is the Memory of Waves. Speaking of never seen before, Biovortex is also exclusively home to several exhibits that have never been seen before at any other TeamLab. Here are just some of my favorites, starting with the Morphing Continuum, featuring these spheres in constant motion in a tornado-like form, followed by the forest of resonating lamps that makes you feel like you're in the Tangled film, though I have to say that my personal favorite was the massless amorphous sculpture. And yes, you will be up close and personal to each of them. And those are just the ones that are exclusive to Biovortex. If you've never been to any of the other TeamLabs before, you'll be glad to know that you will also find some of the exhibits seen elsewhere here, such as the Future Park, where you can participate, create and display your own art, and even get them printed on shirts or souvenirs at the end thanks to Sketch Factory. The kids at heart will love that, and also the Athletics Forest, featuring a whole host of exhibits that will require your physical participation, such as the rapidly rotating bouncing spheres in the Caterpillar House and the Balanced Stepping Stones exhibit. Not to mention the megaliths, resonating microcosms, and many more. Honestly, this is the most extensive TeamLab I've ever been to. There's truly something for everyone. So is TeamLab Biovortex worth visiting? And this is actually quite an important question, especially if you've only got limited time in your Japan itinerary, or you already plan to visit other TeamLab experiences such as TeamLab Borderless or TeamLab Planets. Here's my 5 cents. Whilst there's some exhibits here, like for example the Future Park and Sketch Factory, that you can also see at the newly expanded TeamLab Planets, TeamLab Biovortex also features some new exhibits that have never been seen before at any other TeamLab, such as the massless amorphous sculpture that is completely unreal to see up close. Honestly, as someone who has been to multiple TeamLabs before, this still blew me away. And so my personal opinion is TeamLab Biovortex is totally worth adding to your Japan itinerary. I do hope that you found value in today's video, and if you have, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, all the good things that you know are gonna appease those holy YouTube algorithm gods, but really much more importantly, it's just gonna make my day as a content creator. Do feel free to leave me a comment or feedback in the comment section, as I do love hearing from the people who take time to watch my videos. I also have plenty of other Japan travel guides. I'm going to try to link some of them at the end of this video and also the rest in the description box so that you can go ahead and watch any one of those next. As always, I hope you have a fantastic day ahead or that you've already had a good day. I'm going to see you real soon in the next video. Ciao!